Annenberg Media.
The way I see it, I'm gonna live like forever because there's no point in thinking about death the way I see it, because like there's no point in preparing yourself, because if you're prepared or not, you're going. So
I don't think about it too much, I think it's just too morbid of a thing to think about now, especially at 17 years old. I still got like a long time to live, so it's just not, it's like depressing, I don't want to think about that all the time.
Well, I can't really remember a moment in time when I like first found out that I was mortal, but it never really frightened me. I don't think I ever really thought about it that much. Like I still don't even really think that I'm mortal. I guess because I don't know, maybe when I'm 70 or something,
In childhood, we learn that one day we will die, and that everyone we love will die too. And so begins a haunting anxiety, a rehearsal of the grief we anticipate when a loved one dies, and a fear of the unknown we ourselves must encounter. For much of our lives, we need not take death personally. We look on as an outsider. The meeting is postponed. But at some point, death enters our lives. How can we prepare? In Facing Mortality, will we enhance or diminish our lives? And how can we make sense of the unknown?
I wonder how much of our life depends upon death, how much of our relationship with people, our future plans, how we drive ourselves to do things, has to do with our recognition that we are mortal. A very different condition of life to live without death. Death seems to need us for some reason, and maybe we need death in some ways too. Not really a question of life without death, but how we're going to live with death all through our lives.
Anna Russell enjoyed a long, distinguished career as a singer and satirist. She toured the world performing for stage, radio, and television. She now lives in retirement in Toronto, on a street named after her.
I think there's more of an awareness of death today because people talk about it a lot more. Because in my day, when I was young, it wasn't a sort of polite subject for the drawing room, and you didn't go out to tea with somebody and talking about life after death or anything like that. I mean, it just wasn't done. You just were polite and said nice, pretty things, and those sort of things just were not discussed in those days. Very hypocritical, of course. In this place where I live, people talk about death quite a lot because it happens quite a lot, because we're all pretty antique. Heavens, I'm going to be 87 in December. I better start thinking about it anyway, pretty soon. Well, I do, I talk about it. Doesn't bother me in the least. Why should it? I mean, sort of thing that goes on. It isn't as if you're the only one that it happens to, is it? It's part of the scenery.
The first time that I ever thought about death was when I knew I had been in contact with HIV. And I remember the fall of that year when it happened, because I remember sitting beside the window and watching the leaves fall from the tree and thinking, I'm going to die just like the trees are dying. I was very concerned at that time about, how long would I have? What would I have to do during the time period that I knew that I would die, and would I be able to accomplish the things that I wanted to do in life before that time came? So mortality for me was the short period of time I had to think about what I would do.
As a doctor and an epidemiologist, Greg Robinson also has a professional understanding of his mortality.
I think the highest emotional point that I can remember is succeeding, actually getting through the time of finding out that I was infected and realizing that I could deal with death, that I could continue to live, that I didn't have to die. I could do something about it if I wanted to. I could be an active participant in making sure that I maintained my health and stayed as well as long as I could and got on with the activities of living, and that's what I've done. And that's been a continual high point for me, because it's offered me many chances and opportunities that I never would have had I not been infected. I never would have reached for the stars. And I think that this has allowed me that opportunity. It's been a grace for me.
Greg's diagnosis changed the direction of his career. He decided to combine his professional and personal experience in studying the effects of healthcare on people with HIV and AIDS.
We haven't really talked about it. My doctor's just made STD stuff.
Okay. The test that you're going to have hasn't changed a lot in the last year. So I'm sure any healthcare provider who has to deal with a terminal illness begins to understand what it's like to be a patient. It's not an experience you can reproduce in a medical school. It's not an experience that you can try to learn. It's something that you have to live through, and I think it's been very helpful as a healthcare provider to know what it's like to sit on that other side. I now know when I give a test result to someone who's positive that they don't hear a thing after I've said that. And so I spend less time talking and more time listening.
Stevie Sayers ran her own business until she began her 5-year battle with cancer, which has now been diagnosed as fatal.
After you've been diagnosed as terminally ill, all of your illusions of your mortality and how long you have to live and life in general are stripped from you entirely forever, and you will never regain them. So it's a very jealousy-provoking experience, because all the people that you're interacting with, of course, still under this illusion of life in general. And you're sitting there going, oh, well, that's not my reality. And by the way, it's not really yours. You just don't know it yet. I am out there trying to figure out what the heck my reality is. And it changes from day to day with my health. On a very good day, I think my reality is that I'm not going to die. It's not the same as your reality of not going to die, because I always have this sort of thing sort of skulking around in the background saying, well, you might die. Those are my realities, and they never will approximate what you have as a normal person. And it makes me truly jealous. And at the same time, it makes me think, like, boy, are you ever unenlightened out there? You just don't know that you have this curtain of reality in front of you. and how flimsy the curtain is.
Ibi Gaburi first encountered death as a teenager during the Holocaust. With her mother, brother, and over 900 Hungarian Jews, Ibi was transported by cattle train to Auschwitz.
And then we were separated. My mother went that way. And for the last time I saw her, and my young brother went that way. And then the younger ones, the capable ones, they thought were capable of working or doing something else, were taken to this huge big hall. And we were standing there, and then the Polish prisoners, they came around and they said that, "What are you complaining about? We were here already for 3 or 4 years. You were lucky." So they were a little bit antagonistic towards us. And then they said that, "Well, we'll all die here. You see those chimneys there? That's where we all go." I thought they were crazy.
A visit to the Holocaust Museum in Toronto triggers memories that still haunt Ibi.
The next camp we saw a priest dragged in. Somebody said he was a priest. He didn't wear his frock. But one of the guys said that he was a Catholic priest and he was hiding Jews. And they dragged him in, and for some reason they started beating him so badly. He was screaming that God will punish you for all this. You will burn in hell. And he was just screaming that, and his face was all broken up, the nose broken, blood was all over him. That's when I really felt horrible. Because I thought we all Jews, we are all in together in this. But this was a Catholic priest, and it was just so shocking that he was praying and he was cursing them, you know. And then an SS man came and took his gun out and shot him. And it was something, the first time that I felt, oh my God, what's happening? What is this? I didn't understand. I was just too young to understand. And I felt a deep, deep, deep depression, a great sadness that I thought, God, where is my mother? Where could she be? And it just all came to me, and I started, never thought of my family before. And then I started thinking of my brother and my grandparents and the whole family. This is going on with them too. It just hit me at that evening or at that period. Just hit me that they are somewhere too, and they might be tortured, they might be dead already, and what's happening? So I felt a deep, deep desperation. And I thought, I must live through this. I mustn't die. I cannot die. I have to look for them. I have to find them somehow.
Ibi never saw her family again. 40 years later, in her Toronto neighborhood, she met a woman who remembered her from that time, when she was known as Singing Ibi.
I met her on the street here on Eglinton. I said, "You are Dalush Ibi." I said, "Yeah, hi." And she said to her grandson, "You know, this lady was saving our lives because she sang all the time, and she made us happy, and she made us working better and feeling better. And the songs she sang were always funny sometimes, and it just gave us a good feeling. It gave us a little perk to go on." And she said, "Can you still sing some?" I said, "Sure." She said, "You remember Lil Marlene?" But she said it in Hungarian. I said, "Yeah, so, okay, you want me to sing it for you?" It might not come out very good, and I forgot the words, but it goes on like this. Csöndes az éjjel, sehol semmi fény, őrszem áll a vártán, derék magyar legény. Nagy messze földről gondol rám, s a sóhajtás a száll hozzám. Szeretlek, Márikám, én édes Márikám.
One of the most painful things to accept about war is just how completely random it is. I mean, people die just because they're there. And what separates the living from the dead is nothing. It's just coincidence. It's bad luck.
Journalist Scott Anderson had already covered 4 wars when he had his first intimate confrontation with mortality.
My brother and I were taken out to this isolated farmhouse out in the marshlands of eastern Sri Lanka. And the Tamil Tigers there, the army was closing in on them. And they were extremely paranoid. And in fact, they got wiped out very, very shortly afterwards. But over the course of this day of being with them, they brought out this woman named Atma. It was a 36-year-old woman, a mother of 7 kids, who they said was a spy for the government. And they sat her down across from us and let us interview her. And they were about to execute her. She saw us as her last possible chance to survive, and begged us to try to save her. And we tried in whatever way we could. It was very clear that nothing was going to move this commander. And as it went on, the more we pushed, it became clear that he started thinking we were spies as well. We realized that if we kept pushing, we were going to be killed too. So it was this moment of just having to stop. She was looking at me and still like begging me to saying, "Save me, save me." For a long time afterward, I was haunted by the memory of it. It wasn't something I talked about to anyone, but it was the one time where somebody had appealed to me directly, and I had failed, and there was no way to divorce myself from the equation. And I think that what it became clear to me from that incident was that no matter how much as a journalist you might imagine you're just an observer, the way war works now is you're a participant. Before that, I think that I could see really awful things, and there was always an element of objectivity to it. But after that, it felt very different.
Throughout his career, choreographer David Earle has sought to embody images of death in dance.
Bringing dancers into the studio and explaining that the theme of the work is death, of course, is going to affect every person differently. Because it's something that people have difficulty coming to terms with and finding the right degree of awareness to hold it in their consciousness. Of course, acting out experience and embodying experience physically is probably the best way to come to terms with feelings. Very interesting to think about how an audience perceiving a work on the theme of death would actually deal with it, or what they would take away from it. That you manage to uncover and share a truth with an audience. But when that happens, and people do come to that moment of realization of their own recognition that there is something extraordinary about life and about death, and they're able to take that away with them, then I think you've given them a gift that they recognize and that they treasure.
All around the world, people do not want to deal with death. Why not? It's painful. It hurts us. It hurts each other. Why deal with it? Because if we don't deal with it, it hurts even more. And the hurt stays inside. So I think we can look for ways to overcome our unnecessary avoidance of death, to deal with death more tactfully, more fully. But I don't think we need to compare ourselves to other cultures, other times. We're living here and now in a very strange, fast-moving environment. How we cope with death today may be a little different than our grandparents would, maybe different again than our grandchildren will. But some kind of discourse, some kinds of communication about it is necessary. And sometimes just a look, a touch is really all we need.
If it was me and everybody I knew would live forever, then that would be okay. But if it was like absolutely everybody, there wouldn't be really a point to life, because you can put off everything indefinitely. And I could say, well, I don't really feel like doing this today. I think I'll just do it tomorrow. And you know, if you could put it off forever, and you could like never get around to doing anything. I don't think people would do something different every day. I think they would take it for granted, because that's just human nature.
I wouldn't be able to appreciate life. I wouldn't be able to appreciate, I don't know, this tree that I'm under. I wouldn't be able to appreciate everything that I have, and I take it all for granted because I know that I'll always be able to see it again.
Death is a shifting presence in our lives, sometimes close, sometimes distant. Over the years, we gather insights into our mortality, which become colored by memory and altered by expectation.
Every doctor in those days always had skeleton. We fell in love with skeleton. Mr. Skellington, we christened him, you know. And every day he'd make him dance and make him sort of lift his... they never had any trouble taking us to the doctor ever since, because we'd always get a chance of seeing Mr. Skellington. And then, of course, I was a very inquisitive little girl, so I said, where did he come from? He said, oh, he was once a person, just like you are. But I said, can he talk? He said, no, he can't talk anymore. And where's the rest of him? I said, well, you see, it's like this. He was a little boy once, and then he grew up, and he had a lot of children. And then he died, and then he went to heaven, and then he took all that with him himself, and he talks and all that. That's all gone, you see, it's gone. I thought when you died, you just took yourself off like a glove, and there was Mr. Skellington underneath. And so that was what I was going to be. I wasn't going to. When I went to heaven, I was not going to let Mr. Skellington be buried. I was going to be Mr. Skellington in Dr. Hunterdon's office.
Annenberg Media. For information about this and other Annenberg Media programs, call 1-800-LEARNER and visit us at www.learner.org.